All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to another live reaction of the debate with these feminist crazy people. Today we're gonna be reacting to Rachel Wilson versus Craig, which is a male feminist. I watched a little bit of this, and I was very intrigued by the back and forward. So I decided to, you know what? Let me just choose this one for my next reaction video. With no further ado, I just want to let you guys know that please share my content. Also, not only share my content, but like and comment. That does really help the shadow ban that I currently have in my channel for some reason. What we're gonna do now is just simply jump in and see what's going on. Let's go.
If there is women doing this job, then that means women are capable of doing this job.
He's literally doing the meme where you say most women are shorter than men, and some woman goes, "But I'm 5'7" though, and I know a man that's 5'4". It's
literally not what I'm saying.
But I would have to bulk up in order to use those
We'll go to the gym then.
But even then, Craig,
Then I become a man.
You become a man because you go to the gym? Most men are pretty stupid, and we'd be dead in a few weeks about the women.
Oh my god, already. Wow.
Come on,
Yeah,
every
this is
husband here knows for a fact that their wife has kept them alive, and you can't argue with me.
okay. All right,
I didn't know I was debating like the final boss of Simps today, but here we are. Let me educate you again, debate coach.
Okay,
An ad hominem attack. An ad hominem attack is when you call names but you don't have an argument.
We're gonna go to the
Yeah,
next
but I had
question.
arguments, so that's
All
an
right.
insult, not an ad hominem.
We're gonna go to the next one.
Yeah. Here we are, guys.
Maine First Project has sponsored DebateCon 6, and we are excited to have them as a sponsor because, like Modern Day Debate, they believe in free speech and fair debates. They are an organization that is fervently working on fighting for conservatism in New England. I'm thrilled to have with us today, Zach Gelpy from Maine First Project.
Shout out to Zach.
Thank you, James. All right, guys, I'm not going to be as intense as yesterday. I don't think you guys can handle it. But I do want to say that I appreciate every one of you here, and that...
Yeah, the conservative movement is going to be all grassroots, guys. Don't even think a politician can fix this problem, guys. Politicians are simply a reflection of who we are as a people. Don't ever think that politicians are going to fix this problem, guys. It's all going to be grassroots movement.
Is very proud to be sponsoring this event. And, you know, if you want to stem the tide of the communist policies that are permeating through this country,
Yep.
it all stems in Maine. And you want to stem the tide, you really need to focus where it starts.
Yep.
So please support Maine First
Support,
Project.
guys. That's what it is, man.
mainfirstproject.org. We have some information in the back there, and I'd be more than willing to speak to every one of you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Let's go.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you. If you haven't gotten to talk to Zach, say hello to him. Very pleasant. I got to tell you, it's been great to get to know him. And if you're watching online, check out Maine First Project's link in the description box below. With that, we're going to jump into the introductions for our speakers. First, Rachel Wilson is the wife of the coolest, smartest, handsomest guy ever, and researcher and author of Occult Feminism, The Secret History of Women's Liberation.
Let's
Please
go,
join me in
man.
welcoming Rachel Wilson.
Woo. That's huge feedback there, huh?
And also introducing Craig, also known as Fight the Flat Earth, is an Englishman living in Scotland with 2 degrees and a YouTube career built
already.
on dismantling
Already.
bad arguments. Making this debate with Rachel basically a professional spa day for his brain. Known for, you can tell, they make me read both of these. They say, known for sharp humor, even sharper logic, and being annoyingly good at push-ups. He's here to show that feminism isn't the
Annoyingly
apocalypse,
good with push-up? No way. No way.
and that evidence
His body's not
still
built like
beats
that.
Vibes. Please join me in welcoming Craig.
His body's not built like that. It might be trolling.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here. We are going to start it off with Rachel's opening statement. The timer is set for you, Rachel, for 15 minutes.
All right. So, thanks for being here, everybody. We're talking about feminism today and if it's good for society. So, most people believe that feminism became this dominant political force that it is today due to oppression and abuse by the patriarchy. That it was a grassroots idea whose time had come. Women looked around them and they were like, oh no, we're oppressed. We should march and stuff until we can vote and things will get better. Not exactly how it went down. So surely if they achieved feminism, right, this would give them a better future, make them more safe, because most people believe that men are the primary threat to women's safety and security. Almost everyone in modern society believes that abusive marriages and oppression of women by the patriarchy was a fact of life, which made women miserable for all of history until about 100 years ago. But did you know that women didn't want liberation from the men in their lives? Most people don't know this. In fact, some of the most vehement opposition to women voting came from women themselves. These people were called anti-suffragettes, and they had much larger membership ranks than did the suffragettes themselves. It was far more popular. And these women who were in these anti-suffrage groups were not your average women who demanded feminism. I find their reasoning to be prescient and compelling, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they believed right now. This is also why I think that this part of history has been obscured and most of you have never heard of it, because these women had some pretty good reasons, I think. So, in fact, when the option to add women's suffrage to the ballot was put forth in the referendums in multiple states, the measure was so unpopular with women that pro-suffrage groups actually moved to take that option off the ballot. That's right, a handful of feminists fighting for women's rights actually didn't want women to vote on whether or not they could vote. But don't believe me. Believe Susan B. Anthony, who said, "But the petitioners of suffrage are in the minority. There are many reasons for this, and one of them, paradoxical as it may seem, is because so much has already been gained. Woman in general now finds her needs very well supplied. If she wants to work, she has all occupations to choose from. If she desires an education, the schools and colleges are freely opened to her. If she wishes to address the public by pen or by voice, the people hear her gladly. The laws have been largely modified in her favor, and where they might press, they are seldom enforced. She may accumulate and control property, she may set up her own domestic establishment and come and go at will." Susan B. Anthony made this statement in her speech, The Status of Woman, Past, Present, and Future, which she delivered at the National Association for Women's Suffrage in Washington, D.C. in 1902. So in 1902, women already said, we kind of have everything we want. We kind of have it made. We don't really feel like we need this feminism stuff. In fact, we think that'll make things worse for us. So this, along with the rest of the historical record, kind of debunks this commonly held belief that women had no freedom to do anything prior to 1902. In 1914, the Nebraska Association Opposed to Women's Suffrage group published a pamphlet in response to a ballot initiative petition campaign proposed by the Nebraska Women's Suffrage Group. They accurately predicted that pushing women into the political sphere and the women's liberation movement in general would cause the breakdown of the family, division in marriages, and a lack of effort and focus on children and community, which had always been the main work of women up until this point. They also correctly pointed out that women enjoyed greater protection and privilege under patriarchy than was afforded to the liberated women. They believed, as I do, that women are much more influential and effective outside direct involvement in governing. They also wisely asserted that primary role of government is to protect people and property, and that men are the only ones capable of that task, see Force Doctrine. Therefore, burdening women with the task of which they are incapable is inappropriate and detrimental to women themselves. Why would we ask them to do something they're not capable of doing? These women predicted outcomes like the birth rate dropping from an average of 5 children per family in 1870, just prior to first wave feminism kicking off, to an average of just 2 children by 1940. That's a staggering drop. They were correct in predicting that feminism would inevitably result in the attempted demonization and domination of men. And anti-suffragists were right to ask, who will take care of the children? If we push women into the workforce, who raises the kids? Well, the overall number of U.S. children under 5 with mothers working outside the home in 1900 was less than 6%. By 2012, that number jumped to 58%. The anti-suffragists were also right about what the future of marriage and family would look like if we instituted these sweeping social changes. In 1900, the rate of births outside marriage was only 4%. By 2010, not quite a century after the passage of the 19th Amendment, that rate of out-of-wedlock births had reached 41%. But did feminism deliver on its promise to protect women and children from dangerous men? Let's look at the evidence.
Let's see.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has been tracking data on child abuse and neglect since 1978 with something called the National Incidence Study, or the NIS. The NIS is a congressionally mandated periodic effort of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. There have been 4 of these reports. The latest one came out in 2010. This includes a breakdown of data collected nationwide on child abuse and neglect by living situation. This section of the study opens as follows. Figure 5.9 shows the incident rates of endangerment standard maltreatment for the different family structure and living arrangement subgroups of children. The rate of overall endangerment standard maltreatment for children living with 2 married biological parents is about 16 per 1,000, and this is significantly lower than the rates for children in all other circumstances, which is 52 or more children per 1,000. Kids living with one parent whose unmarried partner was in the household had the highest incident of maltreatment. This is equivalent to more than 13 per 100 children, or more than 1 child in 8 whose single parent has a cohabitating partner in the general child population. Their risks of maltreatment is more than 8 times higher than that of children living with 2 married biological parents. And we're going to see this just repeated throughout the data, that children living with a single parent with an unmarried partner had the highest incidence of physical abuse by far, more than 10 times the lowest rate. So maybe this no-fault divorce stuff is not so great for kids, huh? Only 0.7 children per 1,000 children living with 2 married biological parents were sexually abused, compared to 12 per 1,000 children living with a single parent who had an unmarried partner. So that's more than 12 times. The lowest incidence of physical neglect occurred for children living with both married bio parents. The highest rate of physical neglect occurred for children living with a single parent and cohabitating partner, most commonly single mom plus boyfriend. This is over 7 times greater than kids living with both married bio parents. Same for physical abuse, same for emotional abuse, it just repeats. But perhaps the most relevant and more surprising finding was this. 68% of the maltreated children were maltreated by a female, whereas 48% were maltreated by a male. Some were maltreated by both. In contrast, male perpetrators were more common for children maltreated by non-biological parents or parents' partners. So once again, single mom plus boyfriend. The statistic is the most illustratory piece of data proving that removing children's biological fathers from the home is the single biggest risk factor for abuse. This supports my assertion that fathers, the family patriarchs, have the most interest and biggest protective effect on the lives of children. They're less likely to abuse than biological mothers, and once removed, make single mother homes an easy target for predators who are not related to the child. The second point I want you guys to understand today is that mothers are actually more likely to abuse or neglect children than fathers, by a pretty large margin. In 2021, about 211,000 children in the United States were abused by their mother, whereas 132
That's
were
crazy
abused by their
statistic,
father.
guys.
This is consistent with
That's
these
insane.
same findings we've been discussing all across the NIS data.
Damn.
Defenders of feminism object to these data by pointing out that mothers are more likely to be primary caregivers and spend the most time with the kids.
Therefore,
But we can
therefore
kind of
it's okay
test
to
this.
abuse the kid, I guess. That's a stupid argument. I spend too much time with the kid, therefore it's okay to abuse the kid.
Hypothesis because there's a trend where men have gained far more custody and parenting time over the years, about 4.5 times more between 1968 and 2020. Given this, we would expect to see those abuse rates by fathers going up if they're spending 4.5 times more time with them. That's not what we see. It's just consistent over the last 45 years. That rate did not go up. A more likely explanation of why we see a larger share of mothers abusing children might be that women are much more prone to mental problems. In fact, we see increases in women struggling with mental health problems over recent decades, and women are about 3 times more likely than men to experience mental health problems. According to an analysis of prescription drug data, more than a quarter of American women, 26%, take a psychiatric prescription drug compared to just 15% of men.
And that only is going to keep going up, guys. That is going to keep going up. If the dynamic between both sexes is not fixed, that is going to keep going up. Because what happened is you allow females to not have any kind of direction. They're going to just self-destruct. That's what is going on currently.
To children who grow up without their dads, children from fatherless homes represent 90% of homeless kids, 85% of kids with behavioral disorders, 70% of kids in juvenile facilities, 71% of kids in adolescent substance abuse treatment centers. So across the board, the highest risk factor for bad outcomes for kids is broken homes and not having dad around. And one of the primary objectives of early feminism and also second wave was to get rid of no-fault divorce, get rid of marriage through the church, and make it just a state certificate that you can get out of easier than your cell phone contract. But what might surprise you even more than this is that men are not more likely to be perpetrators of domestic violence. Women are. Analyzing data gathered from 11,370 respondents, researchers found that half of violent relationships were reciprocally violent, meaning both people are committing the violence. In non-reciprocally violent relationships, the women were the perpetrators in more than 70% of cases.
Wow.
In one study, 1,100 lesbian or bisexual women in abusive lesbian relationships, researchers found that the women were more likely to have experienced violence in past relationships with women than with men. Feminism has promoted cohabitation rather than marriage for decades as a way to protect women from abusive marriages. Unfortunately, the data here is against them as well. A large study by Manning et al. Notes that cohabitation is associated with several factors that have the potential to reduce children's well-being. Cohabitation is a marker of family instability and is strongly associated with poorer outcomes for kids. Children born to cohabitating parents see their parents break up more often than children born to married parents. This is setting the stage for instability, and these kids are more likely to experience enduring deficits of psychosocial well-being. So finally, the expansion of the welfare state correlates directly to the rise in out-of-wedlock births. Welfare spending in 1950 was $50 billion. The non-marital birth rate then was 4%. By 2010, welfare spending increased 14 times to a whopping $700 billion, and this is adjusted for inflation. And the non-marital birth rate then rose to 41%. The same people who got the 19th shoved through also met in secret to write the Federal Reserve Act, as well as the federal income tax and compulsory education laws right around the same time. This effectively atomizes the family and means the government is your daddy now, America. This is great for transnational corporations, governments, predators, and the predator class. These same groups are masters at propaganda and public relations.
Yeah.
According to Professor Joe C. Miller, who did a comprehensive analysis of college textbooks about the history of women's liberation, found that many of the important facts I noted here were intentionally removed from history textbooks over the course of decades as the field of women's studies was developed. And this was a liberal professor, guys. This wasn't some kind of right-winger. And he was shocked at this finding. But this is why almost everything people believe about the history of feminism is wrong. 100 years of propaganda throughout the culture and the institutions. If you want to know how we got here, there's your answer.
Thank you very much for that opening. Excellent. We'll switch it over to Craig for his 15-minute opening as well.
Hello. First off, I do want to say I'm a little angry at you coercing your husband into renting out an entire bar just to get me drunk before our debate. It's a little harsh. Conveniently, she didn't drink very much. Right, you ready to have this mansplained to you? Yeah, good. If I get
That was one of my jokes. You ruined it already.
if I get hungry, you can go to make me a sandwich, okay? Right. Morning, everyone. How you doing? I am here today to debate the lovely Rachel Wilson, who's written a book claiming feminism was basically invented by witches, CIA spies, and probably a couple of magic mushrooms along the way. If that sounds less like history and more like the rejected script for Stranger Things Season 5, then you're not wrong. Let's be clear, feminism is not an occult ritual, it's not a CIA psyop, it's definitely not a satanic plot to overthrow the nuclear family. It's the radical idea, well, radical back then, not really now, that women are human beings who should have the same rights as men, and that's it. It's not hard, it's not mystical, and it's not demonic. Before feminism, women couldn't vote, own property in many places, or even have their own bank accounts without a man's permission. In the 60s, women in the UK could be fired just for getting married. In the US, marital rape wasn't fully criminalized until the mid-90s, and that's not ancient history, that's pretty much yesterday. Rachel will claim things like women didn't even want the vote. Great claim, zero evidence. The moment women could vote, they turned out in huge numbers. The historical record is full of church women, union women, activist women, mothers, teachers, nurses, ordinary women organizing for suffrage. If your argument relies on pretending they didn't exist, then your argument is dead on arrival. Should also tell you feminism makes women less happy. Also, zero evidence. No serious study shows women were happier when they had no legal autonomy, no financial independence, and no escape from abusive marriages. Even if someone digs up one cherry-picked graph from a think tank that hates women working, happiness is complicated. You can't just point to modern stress and say, yes, must be the equality that did it. That's the way astrologists think. And then there's my favorite, the forced doctrine argument that Rachel and Jim Bob and Jake all love, that men are stronger. Ooh, look at my muscles. Therefore, we have given women rights out of benevolence. No, rights weren't given. They were won. Women organized, protested,
Hey, what's up,
lobbied, marched,
Ralph
starved
Larino?
themselves, chained themselves to
Thank you
railings,
for
got
tuning
arrested,
in.
got beaten, got force-fed, and refused to shut up. If feminism were just men being sweethearts, it wouldn't have taken 100 years of fighting to get a ballot paper. And here is the actual kicker. When societies give women equal rights, things improve. Education goes up, domestic violence actually goes down. Health outcomes improve, poverty shrinks, economies grow faster. Every major organization on earth, from the United Nations to the World Bank, backs that. The only people who don't are YouTube commentators who type with one hand while Googling how to talk to women. Rachel will tell you feminism is a conspiracy, that it's witches, demons, elites, CIA culture warfare, goddess worship, you name it. But here's the truth. Movements with millions of participants over 100 years don't start with a seance. They start with injustice. Feminism didn't appear because a demon whispered it into somebody's ear. It appeared because women were sick of being treated like unpaid labor with no rights and no escape. And look, credit where it's due. Rachel wrote a fantastic book, which is actually a great example of feminism working. A woman publishing, speaking publicly, influencing society, debating ideas on stage. That is feminism in action. She's literally doing the thing that says women, that she says women shouldn't
Yo,
be
that's
doing.
a man. He's pulling that argument out of his sleeve. So debating is feminism, guys. I never heard that one before, but now we have gone so low when it comes down to defend feminism that we have to now appeal to things that we already done for years. Debating is feminism, guys. This dude is a joke already a joke, man.
Rachel, you are your own feminist success story. Feminism gives us female doctors, astronauts, scientists, prime ministers.
Well, we don't need them.
Nobel
See, the
Prize
problem is that
winners.
we don't need them. That's not their duty to society. That's not their duty to society. Their duty to society is to have kids and create families.
And I mean real ones, like Marie Curie, Toni Morrison, I'll probably pronounce some of these names wrong, Mara Yousafzai, and Tu Youyou. It gave us leaders like Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, Jacinda Ardern,
Angela
and
Merkel, oh my
trailblazers
God.
like Katherine Johnson, whose maths put humanity on the moon. And let's be honest, it's also give us wives who roll
this
their
is gonna be
eyes
it's
at
gonna be
their
a long
husbands,
one,
but
guys.
still keep us alive. Behind every great man, there is a woman with her arms crossed, waiting for him to finally admit that she was right all along. So Rachel, you can
What?
talk about witches, conspiracies, pagan goddesses,
Oh, this is
shadowy
gonna be
elites,
bad.
CIA plots, all you like. I will stick to history, evidence, and basic reality. Feminism isn't optional. Equality isn't optional, and women being amazing, capable, brilliant human beings is also not optional. If that bothers you, well, tough. Equality is happening with or without your permission.
Okay,
Thank
I
you very
guess
much for that opening
yeah.
as well. We'll jump right into.
Okay, I guess so.
I wanted to take a moment to believe in the
Okay, let's just move forward with this.
So, Craig, with whose permission is this equality happening?
Humanities.
Humanities. Okay, so when you said that women were granted rights by society, you mean men?
At the time, men were the one that were in charge of society, but that's what women fought for. Women starved themselves, chained themselves to railings, allowed themselves to be beaten just so that they could
Allow
have the
themselves,
rights that men
guys.
had. Yes, of course, because men
So
were the ones
women
that ran
allow
society.
themselves to be beaten. So this guy's already, man, I'm not gonna be quiet here because I always said that feminism in itself is not a problem. Weak men are a problem. Weak men are the one enforcing this, the foolery, guys. So he cannot even start with the premise that men were the one that gave right to the women. It's gonna be a tough hill. I wish in this debate Rachel Wilson can dismantle this guy's argument, because this is gonna be a problem. This guy is a know-it-all. You can already tell. It's gonna be a back and forward with this guy using sign language and gaslighting. You can tell already.
We had to agree, okay, maybe we should give women rights. And that is a fact that nobody can deny. Men were in charge, mostly have been, not every society in history, but the majority of them. And we had to allow women to have the rights. But they fought for that, and they deserve what they fought for.
Well, first of all, it was just a very small handful of crazy terrorist women who did, like you said, they starved themselves, but they also bombed federal buildings and bombed storefronts and terrorized people, and this was a tiny minority. You said that it's not true that most women didn't want the vote and that they came out in huge numbers as soon as they got it. That's actually not true. In both the UK and the United States, only a tiny minority of women actually went to the polls until the 1960s. So they had the vote for like 40 years before most of them used it. And in, as I stated in my opening, in the referendums on whether women wanted the vote, only like in Massachusetts, they had a statewide referendum on this in the early 1900s. Only about 4% of women who even bothered to show up said they wanted the vote. That doesn't sound like a majority to me. That doesn't sound like a grassroots movement of women who just demanded these changes. That sounds to me like an astroturfed top-down thing. But that aside, again, if men granted women the rights, doesn't sound like they were this evil patriarchy just hoping to keep their boot on women's necks and hold them down. It could be that there were good reasons for things being the way they were for all of human history up until 100 years ago. So what you're going to find is that all of these arguments against feminism rely on framing. They rely on the fallacy of presentism, which is where we look back at history with our present eyes and our present ideals and judge it, which is not accurate. It's actually a logical fallacy to do that. So when Craig says things like, oh, women couldn't have, their own bank accounts or their own credit cards, do you guys think there could be a practical reason for this, or was it just men are mean and they don't want women to have money? In fact, there was a practical reason. Because females tend to just simply spend the resources. That's what they want. They want to simply spend the resources. They don't even understand where the money's coming from. They understand that printing this thing that's called a dollar somehow has value. We're now understanding that that's just a representation of the thing that has value. They don't understand that, guys. Talks about laws being unequal during this time. He's right, because men were held to the standard of maintaining their families and supporting them. These laws were called breadwinner laws, which were, men could go to jail if they deserted their families or didn't support them, and only men could be held liable for debt. So the way it worked was, maybe you couldn't have a credit card in your own name as a woman because you usually weren't employed. You had someone taking care of you and paying your bills. So you could get on your husband's account at the department store or the grocery store and spend his money. You could run up the debt, but they couldn't hold you legally liable for it. He had to pay the bill. Sounds like a pretty good deal. I'd take that. So, and the same thing with women losing their jobs. This was a common thing. These were marriage bar laws. So if you were a teacher, it most often applied to teachers, they would have in your contract that once you got married, your job would be terminated. But once again, there was a good reason for this. They said, well, you're married, so your husband can support you, you're taken care of. We want these teaching jobs held open for young women who are not married yet, for widows, for older women who've never married. We'd like them to have the teaching jobs. So again, it's framing to make it sound like women were victims of something when really it was the patriarchy taking care of them, and things were logically done this way for the good of everyone.
Okay.
Switch it into about 90-second responses. Go ahead, Craig.
So your claim that women didn't want the vote, the numbers disagree with you. In the United States, 2 million plus women were members of the National American Women's Suffrage by 1917. On the other side, the anti-suffrage women's group had around 350,000 members at the same time. And even historians say that number is probably inflated. That's like 5 to 1.
Okay.
1913, Washington, D.C. suffrage parade had 8,000 women. You don't just get marches in the streets without there being actual people there. In the United Kingdom, the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies had over 50,000 women members by 1914. The WSPU, the suffragettes, had thousands more. Many were jailed, beaten, and force-fed. In the 1907 Mud March had over 3,000 women publicly marching in the rain. Like, that was massive for the time. Meanwhile, the largest anti-suffrage women's group peaked at around 20,000 and then collapsed and merged with some men's organizations. So the reality is that women did want the vote in enormous numbers in organized structures over decades in every country where suffrage was won. Your claims require pretending that the marches didn't happen, the arrests didn't happen, the hunger strikes didn't happen, the petitions didn't happen, the letters weren't written, the organizations weren't real.
Yo, nobody denied that those things happen. The question is, did they happen in masses? Like, whoa, the 20 million people, you're smart. No, it didn't happen like that, guys. It was like you see today, there's only paid actors and certain individuals that they like to push certain agendas, and they were selected by certain people to do these things, guys. It's the same thing.
Documents in the archives aren't there. That's just kind of erasing history, nothing else. The idea that women never wanted the vote collapses the moment you open an actual history book. In the US, over 2 million women proved that fact.
So again, we're relying on framing here. So you might notice he said, oh, by 1917, there was more membership in some of the pro-suffrage organizations than the antis. Yeah, because and this was not the case for decades running up to this. It was flip-flopped. And what happened is Cornelius Vanderbilt, Alva Vanderbilt Belmont, and some other rich benefactors paid to plump these numbers up. They paid money and funded this whole thing and created giant propaganda campaigns. They created newspapers.
The Rocco, PJ, how many women will they have taken to storm the beaches of Normandy, bro? Bro, you don't want to know my answer, man. So I have to be in the millions. I can guarantee you right now. Millions, man. It took men thousands, right? For women, it had to be millions. They don't have this, bro. Just imagine that you're in the ships, right? The small cargoes getting to the beaches, right? And all of a sudden, you open the gates and you see things flying around, bro. You can guarantee you, many of them are gonna go. They're gonna start swimming the other way. Like people don't understand that these type of jobs require high testosterone. Yeah, millions, and still they're not gonna get it, guys. I can guarantee you they're still not gonna get it. All right. Like, people don't understand the level of complexity a lot of this stuff requires. I think what happens in the 20th century, we got scared. We got scared of ourselves or our potential. With the wars happening, we went, after the Civil War in the United States, there was multiple civil wars in Europe. Then we have World War I. We got scared, guys. That's what happened. We got traumatized. That's what happened, guys, in my opinion.
Pamphlets and kind of pushed everything that way. So no, it wasn't that women all got together and did this. It was a handful of people who pushed the propaganda, much like we see now when there's marches and people are being bussed in by NGOs. And
so roughly 73,000 Americans landed in Normandy. I can guarantee you, guys. 2,500 of them got killed, guys. And 4,400 allies got injured. I can guarantee you guys, you have, as female, you have to take that beach by the millions, guys. There's no way they're gonna simply go there and just get the adrenaline, just, you know, let them just whatever. I don't know how to say this. Adrenaline is not gonna do it, guys. It was only 3 Germans, guys, taking that beach. 3 Germans, no, it was not 3 Germans. 3 automatic guns. I think it was the M16. I think it was 3 M16s. No way, bro. No way.
Being paid by George Soros to show up and protest. This is true with almost every social revolution, by the way. It's almost never grassroots. If you go back and look, there's usually CIA or intelligence asset involvement, very rich billionaires who are funding these things. And
oh, by the way, 160,000 Allied soldiers. They were Allied soldiers and 73,000 American soldiers. Yeah, my numbers are correct, guys. It's a millions.
Just
in the
monopolize
millions.
the propaganda and push it and push it and push it for decades until they get seemingly enough people on board. So again, this is just a logical fallacy to say this was a groundswell of grassroots movement.
Rachel, quick question. You cite women's anti-suffrage groups, but if women never wanted the vote, why did they need an anti-suffrage movement?
Because they were opposed to suffrage for multiple reasons. They thought it was going to corrupt the family, pit man and woman against each other. They didn't want to have to be involved in the draft. They didn't want to have to do jury duty. They said, we can't secure the government. This is what I said in my opening. We can't protect the borders. We can't go off and fight wars. We can't protect persons and property. Yeah. They said this is the point of government. If the point of government is to protect persons and property, and we're not capable of doing that, why would you task us with such a thing? So maybe you can answer that.
Well,
Physically, they can, guys. They can, and the government is just a projection of their own citizen, guys. Listen. Now there's a false sense of security with the government because we still have men leading some of these cities. But guess what happened with females, man? Take over. The first thing they do, for some reason, I don't know why, violent criminals are not prosecuted. For some reason, violent criminals are not prosecuted or lack of prosecution. North Carolina, Charlotte. I think it's the capital of North Carolina. They cannot prosecute people there. Washington, D.C., they cannot prosecute people there. And hey, guess who are the people leading those places? Females. Seattle's another problem. You know, I mean, Portland is another problem. A lot of these places that are led by females, they lack the comprehension of protection. It's not in their priorities, because how is it that an individual, which is a female, has been protected by the government and by society, is going to take a role to require them to just execute protection when they never have even tried to protect, guys? Think about it. They never have gotten the role to protect. Never. All of a sudden, yeah, they're going to become a judge or police chief without practicing protection. Men have to do that. You have to protect your mom. You have to protect your sister. You have to protect yourself. You have to go to sport. You have to go through some fighting. Like, you start understanding some of these concepts, and it's not as easy just putting somebody in a position. That's it. No, it requires some concept understanding of protection. Protection is a concept, and it's a duty that now is integrated as a man. And females don't have that intuition, guys.
Why were the anti-suffrage groups always of lower numbers and
they
decline?
weren't? That's not true. In the United States, they had much higher membership numbers up until about 2 to 3 years before they passed the 19th.
The data really doesn't show that. The historical records entirely disagree with that statement.
It's not true. I have multiple citations in my book and in articles that I've written. So
your book is wonderful. I've read it several times. And the first red flag for me was that it's a 170-something page book with only 30 citations. No credible academic source would have less than 30 citations in a paragraph. So, and your citations, when you
oh my God, this dude has no idea. Joe, when I did my master's degree, right, I had to provide citation. And, you know, they actually say just don't put too many citations. Do not put so many citations. Just keep the citation what it needed. 30 citations for one paragraph, bro.
To them, every single one of the citations that you used in your book were diametrically opposed to the points that you were making.
Oh,
you are
okay.
extremely good at cherry picking data, almost like a flat earther.
That's actually not true either.
Okay.
Again, we're relying on framing. So if you go read my book and you look at the source material, I take the writings of feminists themselves, like I just did with Susan B. Anthony. I quote the very women who were at the front lines of this, the ones who were
it is,
usually
Ralph. You're right.
bought and paid for and propped up to be the face of this movement, by the way. And they tell you themselves, Susan B. Anthony said, women don't want this. They have it too good. They have everything they want. They can go to college. So he said a lot of stuff in his opening that was also incorrect. Women were never legally barred from education. We had women's universities already in the 1800, in 1870. We had many of these institutions. It's true that there were a few Ivy League schools that didn't let women in, but so what? This is not some systemic oppression,
You are,
right?
I do agree with those points that.
Yeah, and they were
a lot
allowed
of
to
this stuff
work,
about
and they were
feminism
allowed
is-
to have property, and just because, here's the thing. Every time we look at women having any limit put on them, we pretend as though that was not true for men as well, and it was. So he said women didn't have the vote. That's true. Did you know that men only got the right to vote about 10 years before women did? All men couldn't always vote. And people just assume this because it's always framed and presented this way.
As such.
As though all men had all the rights and no women had any rights, and it's simply just historically inaccurate. Women had all kinds of rights. Men took very good care of them, and this is one of the reasons they did cite wanting to be anti-suffragists, because they said, look, we have protection and provision right now that we're going to lose if you try to make us equal with men. We don't want to go out and work 40-hour weeks and raise kids and be in government and politics and have to vote in opposition to our own husbands. We don't like this idea. We think it's going to break up families, and that's what we care about.
Well, I disagree that it breaks up families. I've got actually quite a lot of data on the when you were talking about child neglect and things like that, and yes, it's the rise of feminism is also the rise of that, but it's also the rise of Pokemon. There's been a rise of child neglect. You're doing a correlation or causation thing there, and I'd love to actually go through the data with you at another point. I really want to talk to you about your book because I did enjoy it a lot, honestly. But you just can't erase the fact that millions of women fought and marched and protested. Saying that women didn't want the vote is ignoring the fact that women were marching in the streets saying we want the vote.
Some women, a minority of women. So what?
Wasn't a minority.
It was a minority.
There was also a lot of women that wouldn't voice it, that they wanted it, because they were in the position of, well, my man maybe doesn't want me to vote, so I'm going to say that.
That's not what Susan B. Anthony said. She said that if women,
person.
By the way, this is the other great criticism everybody has of me, is that I'm a feminist because I wrote a book, or I'm a feminist because I'm here speaking to you. Again, 1902, Susan B. Anthony said, women are allowed to speak in public, women can write books. If we go back to the late 1700s, there were feminists writing polemics, touring, being single moms, right? Mary Wollstonecraft was a single mother who was paid to tour Europe and talk about feminism. She was paid to write. She made a living for herself off of writing about feminism in the late 1700s. So this idea that women couldn't do these things, it's a logical contradiction, because they had to do those things to even get feminism going.
Okay, nice. Sorry, I was getting a bit of feedback out of those.
But if you hold your mic up
Yeah.
closer, you won't have to boost your audio.
Yeah, so not all women were voicing their opinions. The advent of feminism, a lot of women just weren't speaking up because they were very used to really not speaking up. Now, I'm going to agree with you that, yeah, women could teach and stuff before, but it was frowned upon in society in a lot of times. I'm not going to go listen to a woman talk. Who wants to listen to a woman talk? Whereas now, Rachel, you can stand on stage with an entire room of people that absolutely love listening to you. You are influencing these people in a way that feminism has attributed you the right to do.
That's not true. I just got done debunking that idea.
Let me finish my point. It's not just what the data shows, it's what the people's attitudes were. The men were the ones that were deciding what was happening. The men were saying to the women, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't have the vote," and the women.
The men are still the ones deciding what's happening. I wouldn't be able to do this right now without men. This microphone I'm holding was invented by a man. A man plugged this in. James is running this whole
And the
debate.
woman can do that,
This
right?
electricity, this technology, this
Yo,
building.
did this two has ever seen the video about females roofing? Has this dude ever seen a video of females roofing, man? Like at some point, guys, I'm sorry. At some point, you cannot be this dishonest. You cannot be this dishonest guy. You can't. Let me show you something, y'all. I need to show you this, guys. Like I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Look at this. Y'all think I'm joking around? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna show you right here. Look at it. What the hell?
What is happening on this roof?
All right.
Yo,
got a little,
Oh, they're moving.
we got a little
give me 1 second, man. I don't know.
go
Why
going.
I don't know why the hell YouTube is stupid sometimes. Right here. Here we go, guys. That's not the one. Oh my god. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me lock in here very quick, all right? Right here. This is the video, a very well-known video. Right there.
What is happening on this roof?
All right. We got a little,
Oh, they're moving.
we got a little show going.
When's the last time you saw all women?
You know what? I
roofing
will
crew?
say I like a hardworking female roofer. They're awesome.
These guys are moving.
I like it. Little dance for us, John. All right.
That's not the one. I don't know why. This one right here. Let me go 1 second. Let it. Right here. Right there. Yo, guys, this is crazy, man. Look at that. A lot's happening, but nothing's getting done, guys. A lot is happening, but nothing's getting done, guys. What the F, bro? Like, this is crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's probably like 20 people there, guys. Probably 20 people. This is not funny. Let me just show you here.
These women doing a roofing job are going viral because of their pace of work. Men are hilariously comparing them to male workers. Check out these comments.
Impressive how slow their progress is. Why is there someone? Yeah. The no profits crew.
Someone really said one Mexican would have been done already. So here's a comparison video of two men doing a similar job.
Look at that, guys. Look at that. Not even the same, guys. Not even the same. That's crazy.
A lot of women for a roof job. Hopefully they...
Yeah, that's it. They have... This guy is being completely dishonest, man.
We're sitting in is built by men and it's maintained by
So
men.
the
And women
advance of
cannot do that.
the advancement of super. Hold on. Who wrote the software that sent men to the moon?
Oh my god.
Women of color?
No. Who
They
cares
got
about
it
the
right.
color?
They got it right the first time, by the way, by hand.
Not who cares about the color? I'm just in. The woman wrote the software for a man to go to the moon, and they chose
it was a
because she was
team.
the best one to do it at the time. In fact, during
Sure they did, Greg.
before we had computers like we call computers. Computers were usually women that were doing lots of math really, really quickly. That was what a computer was.
So do you think those women...
So the Germans invented the computer, guys. So the Germans invented the computers, but no, the computer was not an artifact. It was simply women doing mathematics rather quick. Isn't that funny that they had to say mathematics? You know why they say math? Females are not as good as men when it comes down to math, guys. They struggle. I'm not saying that there's probably one genius in a million compared to men, right? But the reason he's saying that, and the reason they have to just really focus on this female inventing the software to go to the moon, because usually females lack mathematical skills compared to men. That's a fact,
Build and
guys.
maintain the infrastructure that allows us to have technology.
Absolutely they can. There's no reason why a woman could not use the tools that a man uses.
That's really weird, because I've noticed this bizarre thing that feminism magically came about after the technological and industrial revolutions. Isn't it weird that we had thousands of years of history that women never dominated, feminism never came about? It's almost like we needed the industrial revolution and the technological revolution to produce technology that gave us this illusion that women are equal with men and that they can do everything a man can do. Over 90% of infrastructure jobs are still held by men. And it's not because women haven't been pushed to do it. It's not because they can't, because they just want to do it and the evil misogynists are keeping them out. Number one, they can't. Physically, they cannot run oil rigs. They cannot pour concrete all day. They cannot do roofing. They cannot. Physically, they can't do those things for more, if
the
they
largest
can do them
building
at all.
group where I live in Fife is run by women, and the majority of their employees are women. And one of the most successful.
What is it? Say the
I live
first
in
part.
a place called Fife in Scotland.
Okay.
And the largest building group is
guys, I don't know if I
women, and their CEO is a woman. Sorry.
Okay, who's putting up the steel beams? Who's laying the concrete?
The women that are doing the work
Oh
using the
my
tools.
god.
Oh, they are?
There's no reason that a woman can't.
Yo, this dude,
concrete
I don't know. I don't think this dude has ever done construction. I don't think this dude has ever done construction. No. This dude literally has no idea what constructions has to endure, and a construction guy has to endure to pull up those blocky, cement. Like, do you have any idea how hard it is, construction, man? Construction is extremely hard, guys, because it's physically tiring. It's physically demanding. Somehow a female can do it equal or better than a man. And masses, guys.
To melt and then pour it out. Tools allow you to do things. I was in the military, and I trained with lots of women that would go on the marches alongside me, and just be just as able to have endurance.
Okay.
That's weird, because why don't we have any female Green Berets or Navy SEALs? After decades of them desperately trying to produce one, and they've still never been able to do it. Why do you think that is?
Because men are stronger. And the standards
conceded. That's it.
Are based on you doing this, and men are not. I'm never going to deny the fact you are 100% right. Men are bigger and stronger.
Yes.
But we live in a world where now, maybe before, obviously to get things started, maybe we needed bigger men to make the machines in the first place. But now we live in a world where the machines already exist to make other machines.
So you agree
that can
with
make
me?
tools.
He agrees
Hold
with
on
me.
one second,
He
please.
just conceded that it was men who created technological advancements that even made it
Rachel,
possible
and
to imagine that women could be
Rachel,
on par
that is
with
the
men.
point. That is
Thank
the
you.
beginning. That is where it started. But we live in a world now where it doesn't need to be just the men. A woman can do the job just as well as a man if the tools are available.
So it's just tools.
Well, the tools exist now.
So
and women can also make tools.
Have you ever seen the viral videos of men running oil rigs and going down into sewers and dealing with that sort of thing?
Are you saying there's 0 women that work on oil rigs?
There are almost 0 women in the
almost
hard
0,
labor.
or are there 0?
It doesn't matter if there's an outlier.
Of course it matters, because if you're saying that women can't do this job, that would mean that there has to be no women doing this job. If there is women doing this job, then that means women are capable of doing this job.
He's literally doing the meme where you say most women are shorter than men, and some woman goes, "But I'm 5'7" though, and I know a man that's 5'4". It's
literally not what I'm saying. Your claim was that women can't work on oil rigs. That was the word you said. I'm not misquoting you. You said women.
Women.
Then Rachel, why are there women that work on oil rigs? Why is there?
There aren't women that do the actual hard labor.
Are you claiming there is 0? Right, Rachel,
pulling the
hold
300, 400-pound things? Have you ever seen
Rachel,
a woman lift a 400-pound diesel engine and drop it
Rachel,
into a truck?
Are you claiming there is no women in the world that do that job?
I'm claiming that women as a group cannot maintain...
No, Rachel, come on, stop avoiding the question.
Claim. Don't straw man my
claim.
claim.
Is there any women in the world that do
I'll
the
grant
job?
it doesn't matter, because what I'm saying
See, she won't admit it. She won't admit
I did,
that
I
She did literally grant it, bro. He granted. You're saying, like, are you sure that's not one person in the world, one woman in the world that might do X? Probably, bro. But it's not. You're not. That's not an argument, because we talking about generalities here. That's the point. This guy is just trying to say, yeah, because there's one person that can just lift 400 pounds. I guess that means that they're equally strong as men.
she's saying women are
that
incapable
maybe
of doing.
some women are. It has
Well, there
no
we go.
bearing. Because here's the question, Craig. Here's the question. Can women as a whole keep the infrastructure that maintains this modern world going without men?
Yeah.
No, they can't.
Why not?
Well, you love science, right?
Yes.
So scientifically, let's think about this. If tomorrow all women disappeared from planet Earth and only men were left, how do you think people would do? Do you think that they could keep electricity going? They could keep food supply lines
Honestly, most men are pretty stupid, and we'd be dead in a few weeks without the women.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Come on, every husband here knows for a fact that their wife has kept them alive, and you can't argue with me.
Oh my God.
Oh, and then I was debating
you know what's crazy about this? And he laughed about it like, oh, I'm gonna get late today because I said the right thing, Mama.
Every husband here knows for a fact that their wife has kept them alive, and you can't argue with me.
Yo, this dude, bro. I can guarantee you he's gonna go back to his apartment, a hotel, whatever. I'm assuming, of course. He's gonna say to his wife, see, I said the right thing. I told them that you kept me alive. You keep me alive. Isn't that right, Mama? Dude, what a loser, man. What a simp. Listen, man, the real politics in this generation is just going against the culture, guys. We have to establish a better culture for our kids, man. We're going against these men that are a real problem. Like, we fail as a man. Men have a code. The code was that we had to make sure that each other we were ready, even at the weakest. That's why we say that the man is the man or society is stronger. It's stronger as they're weak. A man is stronger. I don't know. One of those things. I forgot the saying now. But what I'm trying to say is, men used to have a code that we need to make sure that we make each man stronger. And I know a lot of people don't believe in certain things like bullying. I don't believe in bullying, but now I understand where bullying was happening. It's just men just testing each other to see where we at. Of course, we don't have to do that anymore. We can simply do healthier things like martial art, sports, and a lot of the stuff where it will build a man character. But man, this dude needs not only needs more testosterone, needs martial arts, need to get hit in the face, need to do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, need to be submitted a couple times, man, because right now he looks like a very weak man.
I didn't know I was debating like the final boss of Simps today, but here we are. So
I'm not going to deny that I adore women. I see the value.
We can tell. Yeah, we can tell.
And the power that women can have, but I in no way think women are above men.
So
and that's one thing I just want to.
Let's ask the second part of the question.
Give me one sec.
Sure.
That's what I want to make clear. I am never going to claim that we should bow down to women and women should be in charge. I just think that women should be afforded, if they want to do these things, the opportunity and the ability and the rights to do it.
Well, they've had that for 100 years and they don't want to do it. Guess what? The women here don't want to do sewage treatment work.
Maybe these women don't, but there's some that do.
They don't want to pour concrete. They don't want to do cell phone tower maintenance where you're climbing,
Rachel, then why is there people that do that are women?
There aren't.
None at all.
It's a
and
tiny,
once again, she's claiming that
it doesn't matter. It doesn't, as
it
we've
doesn't
said,
matter. This is not
It doesn't matter. Pointing to an outlier does not mean that women as a group could maintain modern technical infrastructure.
Rachel,
I can't believe that a guy
claim.
who believes in science is sitting here trying to get you all to believe
Rachel,
that if men disappeared from the planet tomorrow, which is part 2 of my question, let me get it out. Part 2 of the question. All men disappear from planet Earth tomorrow, and it's only women. How long do you think people survive? How long do the lights stay on? How long do we have clean drinking water? How long do we have indoor plumbing? How long before buildings start collapsing, before elevators don't work? Because men are the ones that build and maintain these structures. Women, as a group, cannot and don't want to, but they cannot do it. It's not possible for women to do.
The world we live in now, with the tools that exist in the world that we live in now.
Who builds
hold
the
on,
tools?
let me finish, Rachel, please. The tools already exist. And your question is, if they disappeared now, and right now, the tools exist. So if all the men disappeared right now, the women would pick up the tools the men were using and keep things going.
That is hilarious. I love that. So You think, and by the way, I am a firearms instructor. I've trained women using firearms for years. And
pew pew.
Yeah, more than half of my female students do not have the hand strength to properly load a magazine and operate a semi-automatic pistol. I have to give them a revolver, something that's smaller, something their hand strength can handle. It usually takes me a good
That's a badly designed gun. It should be easy to load a gun. It shouldn't take that force.
Oh, it's spring-loaded. Maybe you're not familiar. You were in the military.
I use an
spring-loaded
SA-80,
magazines,
and with the
yeah,
SA-80,
they take a
with
little bit of hand
SA-80,
strength.
one pullback, and anyone could do that.
The
no
average
problem.
male has like double the hand strength that a woman has.
Triple.
Yeah,
I would say
and
triple,
guns
man.
exist that are easy to load.
Sure, and look, there's a reason why I tell women to train with them, because they're the only thing that comes close to kind of equalizing force. It's really the only thing we've got.
Hold on.
But it's not enough.
Let me ask you a question.
To maintain, we're talking about maintaining the modern world, and I'd love for you to tell me how tomorrow, just because the tools exist, women are going to start building steel buildings. They're going to start laying concrete. They're going to start doing infrastructure jobs where you have to be able to lift hundreds of pounds.
Why would they not? Do you not know that exoskeletons are a thing? Right, you are posing it. You are positing it in a very specific way. If they disappeared now, we live in a world now where women can use tools to make them a lot stronger than they ever were.
I just want to jump in. Folks, if you're in the audience, I need you to, if you're going to say something to a friend, I need you to whisper it as quietly as possible, because I can hear from both sides. Some folks that are talking to a friend, and I can hear it as if it's at a normal volume. I need you to whisper it, or ideally don't do it at all, just so we can hear the speakers. Go ahead.
Sorry, what was I saying?
You were telling me how the strong, independent women are going to start laying concrete and doing roofing tomorrow because tools.
Well, do you agree that the tools exist that allow people to do these jobs?
The tools exist that allow men to do those jobs.
Why could women not use those tools?
You don't put a jackhammer in Rachel's hand and she can suddenly operate it. I weigh
So is there
140
any women
pounds?
that can use jackhammers?
There might be some woman somewhere. Do you think that there are enough
I know women specifically that use jackhammers.
So
Oh
if
my God.
here's a good analogy to
This
try
is
to help
crazy,
you
guys.
understand this. I don't know what's not computing. Let's imagine that we're trying to maintain populations and only 1% of women can give birth. Do you think we're going to maintain the population, or do you think we need far more than 1% of women to be able to do that in order to maintain it on a systemic level? It's the same thing with infrastructure. Just because you have one or two butch-ass chicks who can maybe do some of these things for a limited amount of time, you would never keep thousands of cities running. You would never keep nuclear power plants and oil rigs and sewage treatment plants going if only women had to run them. You need men for modern civilization. So again, this is all an illusion. The illusion women have that they're equal with men is built on the premise that this stuff just appeared here. These lights just appeared. This microphone I have the tool. The tool is here. We see this in certain places where we go to give tribal people modern tools. We give them water. We give them wells. And then when the people who give it to them leave, they cannot maintain it. They don't have the IQ, or they don't have the prerequisite skills to maintain what you've given them. It would be the same thing. And it's even if you have tools, they still require strength. Like I said, diesel engines. There's jobs that require multiple big, strong dudes with big, huge tools to build giant skyscrapers, to put sewer pipes into the ground. Like these big infrastructure jobs, women, it's just a fact of physics, and you're supposed to be a science and evidence guy.
Yeah, but
I don't
Rachel,
get
you're
this.
just saying that women can't do that.
They can't.
But there is
As a
women.
group,
There is women that do that. But there's
What
also,
would it matter if there's
also
three women?
Wait,
Do you think
Rachel, can I just let
Sally
you talk
is
for
going to
ages?
just maintain the world on her own? Sally and Karen, the two that can theoretically do
Let's
this?
switch it over to Craig.
Thank you. So there's weak men as well as weak women. But there
Exactly.
is
We can
more
see
than enough
one.
women in the
We
world
can see
are-
that one. We can see one right now. And I cannot even trust you. You're too emotional. For some reason, not only too emotional, but you, for some reason, want to put females in a higher position because you think that they're better or something. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know what's the fear Is it because he fears his mom or something? I just don't get it.
Holding a jackhammer and moving trucks and loading things and using tools and conveyor belts and everything. There is more than enough women in the world that are smart enough and capable enough to use the tools that already exist to keep it going. You are just saying, I don't think women are strong enough to ever do this. You've got no data to back up that women can't do this. The fact that women do these jobs, even if it is an outlier.
Make sure you got likes and subscribe to the channel.
Ryan or folks, if you can turn your phones off and keep the talking the audience down.
Yeah. The fact that women do these jobs that you are saying women can't do just disproves you. Yes, there's less of them. Maybe a lot of them don't want to do it, but some do. And that's what feminism is. Feminism is saying that you have to do this job. Feminism is saying that if you want to and you're able to, go on then.
Craig, the best argument you're making today is that I, as a woman, am better at understanding logic and physics than you, a scientist man. Like, that's your best argument, and the one that makes me feel like maybe you got me is the fact that I'm here with my blonde hair, looking like a bimbo, and understanding these very simple concepts better than a man who, debates scientifically for a living. You're actually sitting here trying to argue against physics and biology. You think men and women are equal and can do the same things? You think they have the same levels of strength, they have the same capacity? Or is it that, just one sec, because even if a couple women are stronger than men and a couple men are weaker than women, on average, that does not negate the whole, which is that on average, almost all men are stronger than almost all women. Just because you can point to an outlier doesn't prove your case. And as a guy who debates flat earthers, you should
You're asking, how did we allow this to happen? Basically, we gave the right to vote to men, to weak men, to just have a say. Remember the last vote in Wyoming, I think it was, right? It was in Wyoming. The senator from Wyoming, basically the mom guilt tripped him to vote, to pass the amendment. At some point, guys, we had to, I'm in the belief, guys, that these have to be progressive. And I discussed this multiple times, had to make sure we can just get rid of the 19th Amendment. Right? First, we just make it sure that we create a civil test to make sure you can vote. Mostly men are the one that are going to take that test because they're more interested in these things. Simple as that. You have to pass a civil test. That's going to reduce some of the female voting. Then after that, if you're a woman, you have a duty to the society. You're not going to be to the draft, but you have to be married in order for you to vote, right? That reduced more the vote. And then you do stuff like this to just get to a point that men are the one you're holding this power. And then at the end, right? At the end, you have to have kids or adopt a kid. If you cannot have kids, you have to adopt a kid. But you have to be married. And so on and so forth. This has to be with duties. You have to have a duty. And then at the end, we just repeal the 19th Amendment. It can be done. But we have to do this type of, analysis. We have to just support content creators that are going against this type of wave of the ideologies. Yeah, but it was basically weak men that allowed these things to happen, guys.
This, and I know that you know it, so I don't even think you're being serious.
Your claim that there aren't enough women to do these jobs there's no data to back it up. So maybe right now, not a lot of women.
There is data to back it up.
Maybe right now, not a lot of women do those jobs, but if those jobs were needed because there is no men left,
they're not gonna do it.
Women would do it, and they would use the tools, and they would go, right. So I'm strong. Maybe I should
because you're thinking like a man. You're thinking as a man, dude. Correct. You're thinking like a man. A man would do it because a man knows that he has a duty to the society. He needs to protect the society. He understands that things need to get done. As a man, you understand that. It is, listen, the episode from Bear Grylls, where you have the females and the men just surviving in the island. Guess what happened? Almost at the end of the series. Females almost got deleted. Because they didn't want to simply just do the things that needed to be done. Simply boiling water. They threw a can, they put some pork meat in it, and they threw the can away. They threw the can away, guys. Because it smelled putrefied. Therefore, they cannot clean it up. They cannot go to the ocean and clean it up at least. They can't do that. They always knew that they were going to be saved. That's why they acted the way they acted, and they were right. They got saved. but they almost died. They almost died. Craig, you're thinking like this because you're a man. You know you have a duty to just make sure we can keep this machine going. But then you think that females think like that. No, they don't.
That would be good for society right now because we need to keep the oil plants running.
Okay, here's a question. Let's say we do that. Let's say all the women take over all the infrastructure jobs. It's kind of like evolution, I guess, where it just, you have enough time. If you have enough time, just excessive amounts of time, and somehow women are going to become men. It just changes into something else because time. Maybe it's like that. But let's say this happens. What? Let's say that women become strong enough to maintain the infrastructure that allows them to get strong enough to maintain the infrastructure. What happens to the birth rate?
If there's only women.
If women are maintaining the infrastructure. We just say, look, men, you've done enough. Just sit down and rest, kick up your feet. We've got this. We're going to take it from here.
But that's not what feminism is.
We do the Rosie the Riveter. We're like, we've got this. We're going to take care of the infrastructure. We've got this. Don't worry about it. Just sit back. You can take care of the kids. So we already see now that birth rates are falling below replacement levels. And the number one correlate worldwide, regardless of economics, regardless of race, country, anything, is women's access to higher education and their participation in the workforce. In other words, when you tell women, go work all day long, they don't want to have a bunch of kids. So if the women are maintaining the infrastructure, who births the babies? Who's going to raise them and breastfeed them and get pregnant and do all the labor and delivery?
So, right, yes, there is a fall in birth rates pretty much around the world at the moment. But the interesting thing is that the fall in birth rates also applies to countries that are extremely men, or countries that have nothing to do with feminism. A lot of those countries, the birth rates are also falling. So to claim that the fact that birth rates are falling is due to feminism ignores the fact that birth rate is also falling in countries where feminism is non-existent.
Well, I have a study here in my phone I can pull up.
I have several as well.
I have a bunch. They did a huge study.
I got more than you.
They had a huge study in China. China's this big emerging global superpower, and they did a big study there. And they found there that the number one correlate to lower birth rates is women's access to education and work. This makes total sense. There were things that contributed to falling birth rates before that, like the birth control pill and other contraceptive methods, and then widespread acceptance and legalization of abortion. But that doesn't even account for the further drop we've seen in the decades since then. And what it is NGOs going in around the world to places like Africa, to places like Asia, and pushing women's liberation there, pushing women to school. So this is another thing that we've done. We've subsidized women's education, and we've pushed them into going to college around the world and told them, you can't have a good life without college. Children are a ball and chain. They're going to hold you back. They're going to be bad for you and make you vulnerable to abuse. So you need a college education. You have to go to work instead. And when we do that, what we see is women don't have babies. Why? It's super intuitive. If you're spending your fertile years going to college and building a career, you're not going to have kids. If you do have kids, you're going to wait until you're in your 30s or later. So the average age a woman has her first child now in this country is close to 30. It used to be 20. And we're seeing maternal mortality rates go up in the modern world for the first time since we discovered germ theory and antibiotics. Because
and just to let you know, before the 1960s, all Western countries were above the replacement rate, guys. All Western countries. If it is not all, the majority, I would say 96 or 97%, were all above the replacement rate. It's just to show you that something wrong happened in the 1960s.
They're in their late 30s or 40s to have babies, at which point it becomes more dangerous. The risk to the mother and to the child and birth defects all go up. So this is ass-backwards, stupid stuff to do if you want to maintain a civilization. You don't tell women to spend their fertile years pursuing higher education, which, by the way, I think like 80% of the field of psychology degrees are held by women. So all they do is the same stuff they've always done. If you look at the jobs in 1920 that women held and the jobs that women hold now, the top 20 jobs are almost exactly the same. We do early childhood care, we do nursing, we're retail workers, we're secretaries, and then there's like psychology and interior design and a lot of other fluffy stuff. And the only thing that changed was we swapped farm labor for HR work. So I don't know about you, but I think that we would rather have mothers producing babies so that human beings can continue to exist rather than just more HR ladies and psychologists.
Well, women can do both. Women can have babies and have jobs. My wife has worked most of her life. We had babies when 22 and 27.
Yeah,
and
that's not the. Hey, I'm glad that you have babies, but that's not even about the replacement rate. That's not even about the replacement rate. All right, and that's not even a good argument in your favor.
Stopped work, went back to work, and there was no problem. I do agree with you that there's a falling rate of births. Now, here's a great thing. I am currently scripting a video which is basically debunking the claim that more babies equals better, because evolution would necessarily disagree with that claim.
Okay.
A lot of you will be very, very. Oh, actually, I would love the Crucible Crew's opinion on the video that I'm making about that. So yeah, but the fact that there's less birth doesn't necessarily mean that that is bad for society. That depends on the societal pressures. But linking women's rights to there now being less birth, it's not as clear cut as that. There's many other things that have influenced women to, have babies later that isn't necessarily down to feminism, just wanting to have a life beforehand. And the men are involved in that decision as well. A lot of the men don't want to have babies that young as well as the women. The men still, in the study that I was looking at, still men are the ones that decide that, okay, we're going to start a family. And that decision coming from men is happening later on, not just the women wanting babies later on.
Right, so you said that more babies doesn't necessarily equal better. Sure, I'll grant you that. But what do you think is going to happen to places like South Korea, which are at a 0.7 birth rate?
That's crazy,
the average
guys.
South Korean woman isn't even replacing herself, let alone being at 2.1 to 2.2, where you need just to hold the population stable. And I don't know if you've looked into what happens when you have population collapse, but it's very catastrophic.
That's
we're
crazy,
looking at a
man.
future where we're not going to have enough young people to take care of older aging populations or to maintain the infrastructure we have now. Supply lines and supply chains are already suffering. We're already struggling to produce things the way we used to because of global population decline. Now, right now, there's something called population momentum. So people will go, well, there's billions of people on the planet. I don't think this is a problem. And it's like, yeah, right now, because, there's a life cycle, so it takes time to catch up. And what's going to happen, and people like Elon Musk have been talking about this now for a couple of years, what's going to happen is you're going to hit this point where it just kind of drops off. And places like Japan and Canada are already encouraging older people to euthanize themselves.
Yeah, that's their new way to do it.
Because they don't have the infrastructure to take care of these aging populations. We need to be stable at least. So
I'm going to agree with you 100% that the places like South Korea and even Japan and areas of China, the majority of the population are old people that need looking after, but there isn't enough younger people to do the looking after, which then leaves problems to there's not enough people to do infrastructure. Yeah, but that isn't just a women's rights thing. There is many other things, especially in South Korea. A lot of that came from changes in the government and things like that, which was nothing to do.
Can we at least blame females for just choosing not to have more baby? Can we at least do that, guys? Hey, okay. Man beer bad, okay? Man beer bad. Man strong bad. I understand. But can we at least as a society at least blame females for the low birth rate? Can we do this, guys? Like, damn, man. Listen, at some point there has to be some fault on this. Like, you have the right to vote, the right to just choose the government, all these things, all the stuff that requires some kind of responsibility, and there's zero duties. You put the nations into debt with all these social warfare, but somehow they're never in the wrong. I just don't know, man.
The government was saying, well, you need to start having babies at this time. And then, especially in China with the one-child policy, that was nothing to do with women's rights. That was China thinking, oh, shit, we've got too many people, stop having babies. And now they've not got enough people to do anything else.
Well, in my book, I explain how feminism comes from Malthusianism. So it comes from this idea that we're too overpopulated, that smaller populations would be better. Who likes this? it's not a conspiracy theory. They tell you in their own writings, the elite billionaires, the same people that we were talking about, technocracy yesterday, those same people who want like a technocratic future or a transhumanist future do want less people because they want a very small population that they can easily control, engineer, and manipulate. Those people are the ones that funded and pushed feminism and funded and pushed, literally created the birth control pill, and the same people who pushed to make abortion not only legal for the first time in the USSR under Lenin, but made it free and paid for by state hospitals up to birth with no reason given. And what happened in Russia is, within less than 20 years of that policy, they had 1 live birth for every 3 abortions, and Stalin had to outlaw it again to prevent catastrophic population collapse. So this feminism is
we
a
need to
death
get those
cult.
numbers up,
It tells
man.
women that babies are bad, that being a mother is bad. You're not cool like the boss girls. You need to get out there and be something. You need to do something with your life. Don't just be a baby factory. I've been told this my whole life, that being a mom is like this gross thing that you do if you're not good enough to hack it in the business world, or you're not smart enough to go to college. I chose not to go to college and have kids, and even the normal, like, conservative women around me thought my life was over. They thought I was making this huge mistake and I was never going to recover. It's just crazy. So it's the propaganda and it's the mindset that is creating this impetus in women that their natural inclination to have a family, their natural inclination to be mothers during their fertile years is wrong, and that they need to act like men and be like men and compete with men. And I think it's bad for women, and I think all the statistics I went over in my opening shows this. Can you show me any metrics by which you think feminism has delivered on its promise to protect women and make life better for them?
I've actually got a bunch of studies on here. Oh my God, there's so much on here. So I wasn't expecting that very specific question. Right, rather than get into looking through my data to find that specific note, can we kind of look at the larger issues? I would gladly get that data back to you. In fact, I still owe Andrew some data from the last one, to be fair. All right.
Well, I mean, we just went over the fact that, they pushed no-fault divorce. The feminist movement, it was the National Association of Women Lawyers who pushed no-fault divorce and got it shoved through because they told women this was going to protect them from abusive relationships. But what we look at now, the data says that actually no, the safest place by a factor of 8 to 12 times for a woman is married to her husband, not cohabitating with her boyfriend, not being a single lady and flying around having champagne brunch and going to Dubai. Those situations make you more vulnerable to abuse than marrying a guy.
It does, guys.
So that didn't work out.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get over the death cult claim, that one. A cult isolates you, restricts your freedoms, stops you learning, controls your choices, punishes dissent, demands obedience, reduces your autonomy, and treats people like property. And that kind of sounds like your worldview, not feminism. Feminism is kind of doing the opposite. It's giving you rights, giving you freedom, giving you choices, giving you education, letting you vote, letting you leave abusive men if you want to, letting you work, letting you have your own property, letting you exist as an actual fucking human being.
So did we not already establish the fact that women were allowed all of that before they got the vote? Before feminism became the dominant thing? Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, the two major figures in women's suffrage, both say women could own property, women could be educated. Women have had higher literacy rates in this country for a long time than men.
Always been like that, yeah.
And again, this is a framing problem. So we're acting as though men always had all rights. They did not. Most men never got past 5th grade education.
Agreed.
Until recently, because they were meant to be cannon fodder in wars, or they were sent to the mines, or they worked on the farms, where they have far higher instances of death on the job than women have ever had. Still the case to this day. You're far more likely to die on the job than a woman if you're a man. Only men can be drafted. Right? So it's still men. Isn't this oppressive to men? Why shouldn't we liberate men from having to do all these things? Shouldn't we get in there, ladies? You get in there and you fight the wars and you run the farm equipment and you run all the dangerous, dirty, hard jobs. You do all that and let the men stay home and, learn piano and read books and play with toddlers all day. Why don't we do that? How is it only that women are oppressed?
Well, we don't have to force an entire. The point is choice, Rachel. If a woman,
There was choice before feminism.
So but they choose. The problem is the females are choosing that, but you feminists are not allowing them to even choose that in the first place. You guys tend to just simply just do a lot of chain tactics of moms that would just want to stay at home, just learn piano with their kids or teach their kids piano, and then all of a sudden you just want. They just want, they basically, okay, so females can do anything that has nothing to do with motherhood. If they do motherhood, it has nothing resembled to be a mother. And that's the only way they're okay with it. I just simply don't know why.
Right, but here's the thing. Here's my point about that. Yes, with a lot of the things about feminism that people say are wrong. And you're right that education rates even for men back in the time were lower. It's like when people that aren't orthodox misuse the Bible, like, oh, this is what we should read it, when it was literally just the top level of Christianity that was supposed to read the Bible, and that for teaching purposes, right? But now we live in a world where it's very different. Nowadays, everyone has the ability to every bit of human information at their fingertips. Women can be just as smart as men now, and now we live in a world that is different from before.
Yeah, but we don't care about those things. The problem is that, yeah, they have all these access, which is fine. We love that. Hey, the better the humans can educate themselves, the better. But where's the duty? Where's the duty for society? Men are just going through this world with the duty of protect and provide. Even when feminism is in the equation. But right now, we're not even discussing the duty of females and women in this society.
Now, why don't we just give women the choice to do what they want whenever they want? And back to your point of well, they had the choice back then. Yeah, but a lot of men would say, no, you're not allowed to do that. And what feminism has done is it's softened a lot of men and realized that, well, which isn't good in every single way. I will agree.
Yeah.
I'm not for wokeness. Just understand that very much triggers the fuck out of me. But the fact that women now, if they want, they can go and do these big hard jobs because the tools already exist, and men aren't going to go, no, you shouldn't do that. Stay at home. That is what has changed, rather than just the legal right to do the thing. Does my point come across there?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But again, it's based on a huge lie, which is that women could do these things without men. So you're basically like, well, but men are allowing all this. And it's like, yeah, men are the ones, like, it's all an illusion. This is what's so insulting to women. Governments around the world prop up, certain, like, pushing women into STEM, subsidizing their education, putting out all this propaganda telling them that they're not strong and independent, that they're going to be a loser if they choose to just be homemakers or be wives or submit to their husband, like that this is bad, right? This is what's actually oppressive to women, because it's all built on this idea, oh, well, now you have a choice. No, first of all, you had the choices before. You could speak publicly as a woman. This idea that you couldn't in the West, maybe under Sharia law, but that's an Islam problem. It's not a patriarchy problem. It's not a male problem. It's not men oppressing women specifically. We could do these things. We were allowed to do all kinds of things. There was nobody not allowing it. They didn't just legislate that women are second-class citizens. This is all garbage rhetoric, and it's all lies. And the biggest lie is that we don't need men to hold this illusion up for us and build a world that maintains this illusion and grant us these rights, and of course secure any notion of rights using their force, granting their force. I don't like being lied to. I don't like being patronized in this way and told that I'm equal with my husband. I can do everything that he can do. I should be more like him. That if I decide to, do what's more biologically natural to me and what's more ontologically suitable for me, that's bad. And there's a big thing we're missing here, which is that most women don't want to do this crap. None of the women here, as little girls, were like, you know what? I really want to work in the waste management industry. I want to get on a garbage truck and pick up trash all day. I want to get in the sewers and, clear out rats and clogs.
Do men really want to do that either?
What's that?
Do men really want to do that?
No, but this is the thing. Men do because why? Duty. Because society says, look, you got to do this. If there's a war,
there
sorry,
you go.
buddy, you got to go die.
That's what I said before. It's a duty aspect. Nobody wants to do it, but we understand somebody has to do it. That's what it is.
Do these difficult things, and a lot of feminists will argue that this is actually oppressive to men. I kind of agree with them. So it's like this idea that women were oppressed. No, we weren't oppressed. Men and women are just different, and men have had limitations throughout history on what they, what was socially acceptable for them, and so have women, and there's actually nothing wrong with that. It's good and it's healthy, and we actually need it, because to the extent that we don't do that, we see society falling apart. Again, we just went over all of these stats, and Craig says that he doesn't think feminism is causal to these things. So maybe he can address, the amount of broken homes, the amount of fatherless homes, the amount of out-of-wedlock births, the massive increase in welfare spending. Again, we're like, if you look at them on a graph, the number of out-of-wedlock births and welfare spending, they go up like this in tandem to astronomical levels. So all you've done is replace fathers and husbands with daddy government. So maybe you can tell me how this wasn't feminism's fault and how this is actually better for anyone, but especially women and kids. The people it promised to protect are now the most vulnerable to, bad actors, to the men who will abuse. It didn't protect us. It actually made us more vulnerable.
Okay, so I don't want to straw man you. You are kind of claiming that the rise of feminism has also led to the rise of domestic abuse and child neglect. Is that correct?
It promised to decrease those things, and a consequence of it was that it increased by removing the people who had the most interest in protecting their own wife and kids.
So I think you're confusing reporting with occurrence.
Nope.
So before feminism, child abuse wasn't recorded or reported as much. Domestic violence wasn't really recorded. Police didn't intervene. It was like, that's a spousal problem. Schools didn't report it. Doctors didn't report it. Family matters. It's a private thing. That's like, you keep that in your family. Beating your wife and kids was kind of normalized, to the moon, that. Whereas now that's not a thing, because feminism has pushed forward the things like reporting domestic abuse, not standing for domestic abuse. I am never going to say that everything about feminism is good, especially the extremists, right? I don't like extremists of anything. Extremist Pokemon players, extremist DC comic collectors, extremist feminists, they're all bad. But the normal, just everyday feminist just wants to be able to do what they want to do without stigma and rules around it.
Too bad. There's always going to be stigma. There's always going to be rules. Sorry if you don't like them, but you're never going to be free of that. That's another just lie. That's another illusion. But there's a reason why in my opening I used the NIS studies, because we have 45 years of data. Now I'll grant that's not 450 years, but feminism still wasn't super dominant, and the culture hadn't completely shifted 45 years ago. You still had more stay-at-home moms, more traditional wives. If you watch sitcoms and shows from the 70s and 80s, you'll kind of see that this is true. These things are just starting to emerge. And if what you're saying is correct, we should have seen, because we had reporting, we had plenty of reporting, because the NIS, and this is the reason I use it, they don't just go off of women who call the police if they're abused. They go by every authority that has to report suspected or confirmed abuse, either one. So places like emergency rooms, battered women's shelters, school counselors, all the reporting people. So regardless of whether the woman or the child reports it, they're counting this as abuse. So we should still, even regardless of maybe there's more reporting or whatever now, we shouldn't see the rates of domestic violence go up. And we shouldn't see that women in relationships together have the highest rates of domestic violence if men are the threat. That doesn't make sense, and it's contradictory to what your claims are.
Give you a pithy response, Craig.
You know what's crazy? I was checking here between child abuse, and men are more likely overall to be victims of physical abuse, meaning kids that are male, more likely by a woman. That's crazy, man. That's crazy, man. It's so sad to just hear these statistics.
The Q&A.
Excluding women.
We're gonna leave it a little longer here.
Patriarchy has arrived.
Yeah, we're gonna hear some of these back and forwards, guys.
I don't think any questions are going to be for you. They're all going to
lock in
at me, right? Have you got your tomatoes ready?
They're just going to ask me how I became so awesome, and I'll say it's because
I mean, you are pretty damn awesome. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
So I'll just give kind of a final thought. the whole, when you were saying about women in STEM is pushed and it's bad, and I see that as completely false, because especially in STEM and in science, there's been a bias for a long time in the way the science is done and the results, because only men were doing it. Since women have been introduced to STEM a lot more, the results in scientific studies, the way that science is done, the trials that are conducted, a lot of the biases that men put into the science has been removed, which has led to an increase in technological advancement and a benefit for society overall. I 100% agree with you that women are not maybe suited for every single job in the world, but at the same time, men aren't suited for every single job in the world. Women have their specific uses in certain circumstances.
Yeah,
but
so yeah, we go. So you have an hour, almost 2 hour debate, an hour and a half debate, just to go back into zero. Why? So you were not here to debate. So what were you doing here? Like at some point you have to debate these ideas. You just arguing for the status quo. Clearly something is not right, but you think that your status quo response is just helping move this conversation forward.
They should be able to do what they want without having to beg a man for permission. That, I just think that women are capable, more capable than men have given them credit for.
Independent woman.
And I should be skinny with no effort and be able to eat whatever I want, and never get wrinkles as I get old, and fly on unicorns, because that sounds like fun. I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about, like, oh, everyone should be able to do whatever they want, but that's not even dealing in reality. And here's the problem that you have with it's good that we took the bias out of science. It's actually not true. We actually added more and different bias. It's called standpoint theory, and it was introduced through women's studies programs in the early 70s, and it was pushed into a lot of the STEM fields, and a lot of people don't know this, but the Challenger explosion, if you guys remember that, I think it was 1985, that was actually a failure of female feminist standpoint theory being pushed into the sciences, where the lead engineers for the Challenger team said the conditions for this are really bad. We should not launch. It's going to crash. The temperatures are all wrong. It's not going to work out. And you can go on YouTube and see the lead engineer crying in a video talking about this. And they said, no, because that would, it would violate a lot of the equality stuff that we have in the program. We have to give people a chance to do this launch because everybody worked hard in the marketing team and blah, blah, blah. Standpoint theory has actually ruined science. It's just introduced new, different bias.
So just one
response, because it was new info, but then we got to go to the question and answer.
I agree that forcing we have to have more women because of equality, and that's a bad thing. Like, taking away roles from men that could do it better than certain women is a stupid thing to do. Forcing women into a role because we need to meet our equality guidelines is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So I 100% agree with you there. Can I say based as well? Yeah. Based.
Excellent open discussion. Very good.
Yeah, my bodyguard here is gonna leave. I'm gonna get a 5'2" woman. She can do just as good a job. She's got tools.
I guess I was wrong when talking to the flat earthers, because giants are real.
We're gonna jump into Q&A. Here we go.
All right, so this is for Craig. It seems that feminism leads to many bad outcomes, which I would label feminism as extremist. I would like to borrow a few points talked about during this convention. Feminism leads to low birth rates that cannot sustain the population, destruction of the nuclear family, Islam, cousin humping, lower IQ, and the overall extinction of the human species. Why are you arguing for these anti-human extremist ideas?
I reject the assumption that women's rights is the reason for falling birth rates, and I pointed out that in many countries around the world which outright reject any kind of women's rights, birth rates are also falling. So to say women's rights equals birth rates falling equals Islam is ignoring the fact that it's happening in those countries as well.
All right, ready for you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. First of all, thank you, Rachel, for being here. You too, Craig.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher and debate coach, so I know what it takes to get up here. So my question is for Rachel. Feminism.
Oh my God,
this is different definition.
This was the lady that happened on debate with Rachel. Man, this is crazy. That is funny.
But you can look it up. Feminism is ultimately the theory that women can be equal to men in all things. So I think patriarchy hurts everybody, and I'm asking about a very specific thing right here. Teacher pay. I'm a teacher. We have lots of male teachers. Historically, which you said yourself, the reason teachers get paid is because paid lower is because it was a secondary income. Can you concede that maybe patriarchy has hurt men in this way? Because while men still make 75 cents, or women still make 75 cents to the dollar that men make, teachers do not get paid a lot. So while there are biological aspects to wanting to become a teacher, like caregiving, can you concede that maybe patriarchy has also hurt men in this way?
Well, first of all, the gender pay gap is a myth. Once you control for things like women taking more vacation time, voluntarily working less hours, taking maternity leave, things like that, men voluntarily wanting to work overtime, wanting to put in more work, the gender pay gap basically disappears. But I'm not sure, as far as your question, how the patriarchy hurts male teachers. Are you saying they make less?
No, I'm saying that because of the patriarchy, which, you know, you were saying women need to stay at home, or women should stay at home with children. Historically, teaching was a secondary income. You married your husband, the accountant, the lawyer. You were only there when you weren't having babies. And yes, the pay has increased a lot. And I can't argue whether or not teachers deserve more money than we get. I have opinions about that. But men, too, get paid not very much for teaching. Whether they get more or less from women, teacher pay is a problem. And men are also victims of this. Can you argue
I'm
that
shocked
this
you're
is
a debate
not
coach,
the case?
because that does not follow. If both men and women aren't making much as teachers, how does that make men a special victim of the patriarchy? And
I'm not saying that. You're actually generalizing right now.
okay, maybe you can clarify your point.
Okay.
How specifically is the patriarchy hurting male teachers?
Because they don't get paid a lot. And historically, that's happened
due to markets and demand. So, I mean,
explain that, please.
How would both male and female teachers not getting paid much just because it was historically a woman's job be specifically the patriarchy oppressing men? They don't have to be teachers. In fact, the vast majority of school teachers are still women. Yes. Yeah, so how is this hurting men? I don't think...
Because men do it too.
So?
So
how does that follow that this is oppressive to men? That's what I'm not getting.
I never said it was. I said it hurts the teaching profession, which men also participate in.
The teaching profession is not highly paid because you don't have to be very smart or very skilled, and there's much more in-demand things. So this is market
because
economics.
I almost did a minor in music education as a teacher for the state of Puerto Rico, and I remember going through all this. Like, I'm not learning to be a teacher. I'm learning to be an employee. So they teach you to do certain tasks, and then you're supposed to teach certain materials of that class or that curriculum. But in reality, you're not learning anything out of the ordinary, guys. You're not learning anything from the ordinary. So it's true. It is a very low skill job.
It's not oppression of the patriarchy that teachers don't get paid enough. By the way,
thing that a woman could do, right? But yet, why isn't it 50%?
Some of them don't want to do it. I mean, I'm not going to deny.
More single women now than ever before, right?
Yeah.
So why don't they do it?
Because they don't want to be truckers. I mean, personally, for me, the idea of sitting in the truck for hours on end, it sounds like hell. And maybe that's the same for a lot of women.
But why do men do it?
Maybe some men like it. I don't know. A lot of truckers that I know love doing that job.
Duty.
No, I'm just saying that the fact that you said there is 12% of women that do it, so clearly some women want and can do it.
Yeah, they end up unhealthy, very bad, out of shape. I mean, men do take a toll on a job like that. They have high cholesterol, diabetes, and high blood pressure. But women, they just get out of control. Men, after 15, 20 years, they can't even walk. Females, that is, after doing trucking. Trucking is not easy, guys. You have to unpack, and usually when females do it, they have somebody else, another male, doing it with them. So trucking is not an easy job, guys.
The question is for Craig. Good
Long
afternoon,
done.
sir.
I was
Doing well
driving too.
yourself?
Not bad, not bad.
Good to hear it. I thought it was interesting the point you mentioned about if all the men disappeared, the women could just step up and take their place, right? I work in finance, and if all of the men were me, we'd be fucked. So, like, dead serious, right? So the thing is 95% of these infrastructure jobs, that's being charitable, are currently dominated by men.
Yeah, agreed.
So if all the men disappeared, even if the technology is available, the resources are there to do it, they don't have the underlying education requirement or pre-existing knowledge to actually fulfill those positions. How do you contend with that?
Very good point. I would say, look at the instruction manual.
I guess the patriarchy would have to teach them how.
Training is a very
they're not
important
here.
thing.
What do we do?
My hope would be in a situation like that, the few women that have those skills would be able to teach the others.
Jump to the next one.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Craig, so
since
we'll start basically around World War II, we started dumping a lot of women into the workforce. And over that time, the cost of living has risen exponentially ever since, the more women we've put into the workforce. So now everything is basically scaled, housing, what have you, on the assumption that two people at least are paying all the bills. So doesn't that seem more like it's economic oppression for both men and women?
Yes. I cannot argue with that point.
Back to the kitchen.
We'll go to the next question.
Hey, thank you both for the debate. Craig, my question's for you. So you said you were in the military.
Yes, I was.
You said you trained women. So you're probably aware
I
of
didn't train women, I trained with women.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you're probably aware of the physical and training different requirements for men and women. So my question to you is, if women could replace all of men's jobs, assuming the Ukraine only had women to field in the current conflict, would they be able to meet the same results on the field if they did that?
If they had the same tools, I believe so.
Thank you.
All right, Craig, you said you believe in science and that all or most scientists worth their salt would conclude that life begins at conception. But at the same time, you say you support feminism, women's autonomy or rights to autonomy, such as if they want to abort their kid. Now, you need to reconcile this for us, because you're saying, at the same time, you're saying who cares? And at the same time, you're saying believe the science. Because to me, you're kind of sounding like a flat earther here.
Abortion is case by case, and this debate wasn't about that.
Go to the next question.
Hi, Craig.
How you doing?
Voice is a little
Can
gone.
you be
so
quiet?
gotta
You're far
overdo
too
it.
loud.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry about that. I'll work on that. So hypothetically speaking, if women are maintaining this infrastructure with the tools, what happens when their tools break and become unserviceable? How do they make new tools when they were by the men who provided it to them? So men provided these tools. How are they going to replace them?
We know how to make the tools now, and the factories to make the tools are there, and the ability to maintain the factories and everything that exists is already part of the infrastructure we live in. I will concede 100% that if it was
But
200...
that's men that are maintaining that. So I'm talking about, what are the women going to do?
Women could maintain. That's my contention, is that women could maintain it.
That's
now.
right. They can't. So I'm trying to ask you, what can they do there?
How do you know they can't?
Well, because by weight, lifting,
They
pushing.
already tried
tools
that, I think, in Nordic countries. Tried that already. They gave an island to a bunch of females in 5 years. I don't remember the story very well, I think. And in 5 years, they had to bring them back because they almost died. They can't. They simply can't. Again, guys, these things don't come out of nowhere. These things just come from the genetics. They come from a lot of stuff that, female and men have different approaches to a lot of these problems. They think that, again, it's just this mindset that because a dollar represents a value of something, therefore I can just buy everything and things are just simply going to be built out of nowhere like a video game. They think that creating a society is like a video game where you press a button in a computer, all of a sudden they just build a bunch of skyscrapers or something. It's not like that, guys.
Because the tools are now gone. The tools that they used to lift, right? That's what I'm asking.
Well, you use the other tools to fix those tools.
They're broken. All of them broken, unserviceable. How do we fix it?
Then you get a bunch of women to mine some ore, build a smelter. Oh, wait, hold on, that's factory.
Get
All
out
the women
there,
are mining
ladies.
ore.
Get
Thank
out
you,
there and
Craig.
start mining some ore. Girls.
They have no idea how this thing works, guys.
The women yearn
Hello.
for the mines.
For Craig, to your point about the outliers, I know I shouldn't base an argument on anecdote, so maybe I can defer to the audience for this one. To just kind of get a larger consensus on this, but in my job, the women always defer to the men for tasks that men do not need deferral for. So I guess I would just ask everybody this: how many times have you seen this, women deferring to men for help on something that men do not need, whether it be physical or technical?
That's like a point.
Just by show of hands. Right.
Tons.
Tons of times. Okay.
That's a good
Andrew
experiment.
opening a pickle jar, right? Olives, sorry.
Hi, Craig.
I know. That's, hey, jars are hard. Okay, I get it.
Hi, Craig.
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm a little hungover, but all right.
I think I'm still drunk.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to my question, right? So I've been watching. I mean, this based on some of the arguments you've been making. I gotta ask: are you kind of playing devil's advocate? Are you just agreeing with Rachel secretly at this point? Or?
No, here's the thing. I agree with a lot of Rachel's points and a lot of the data and stuff that she brings up about how things started is absolutely 100% true. But I just want to look at the world we live in now and what's fair now. I'm never going to deny that men created the infrastructure, that men were the strong ones that started stuff. But
there's Andrew Wilson right there. You're waiting in line. Yo, it's going to be
now.
crazy.
And I just think that now if a woman wants to do something, they shouldn't have to beg for permission and stuff. And, maybe that's me being fantastical and that's just what I would like in the world. But I see that as a fairer world that we have as a society of both men and women created.
I don't think men just were like, you know what? No, we love the dirty, dangerous, difficult jobs. You're not taking them from us. I don't think that's what happened. I think it was like, well, she can't do that, and I don't want to make her do that because she'll probably die if she tries to do it.
To follow up with that, if women chose generally today to go a more traditional route, would you support that?
Yeah, that's the woman's choice, 100%. I've got no issue if women want to stay home and be the housewife and raise the kids, 100%.
I just want to say, I too am a debate coach. I coached a team to a national championship, and I think you fucking killed this debate, Rachel. So that's my opinion as a debate coach. Given that, Craig, my question's to you. I think Rachel did a phenomenal job discussing how, even for women, feminism has been incredibly detrimental
Good,
to
I'm
society.
glad, Ralph, you're enjoying this stream so
however,
far.
when she asked you to point out specifically where feminism's been good, you fumbled around your phone and couldn't come up with an answer. Even if you do disagree with her, my question to you is this. If she could convince you of this, would you say that that would be a reason to reject women's right to vote? Or would you say that this nebulous right is more important than the negative outcomes that would come from
that's a great question.
I hold the position I can always be wrong about everything. And if Rachel could convince me that I was 100% incorrect in my argument, then yeah. But I...
The point I'm making is like there's a right to vote that you're saying women should have. But if that right led to literal worse outcomes from them and it could be proven, would you say those worse outcomes are worth rejecting this nebulous right? Or do you say, I'm sorry,
That's a
we have
great
to take
question.
these worse outcomes because the right is so important?
Hey, look, so if 200 years down the line, society has fallen apart and we can link that directly back to feminism, then get rid of feminism, right?
So that means if you provide evidence right now that is the case, he will change his mind. You can literally go right now to Twitter, guys. Twitter, YouTube, social media, right? And you can provide evidence in that case. Females are just not happy. They're using a lot of pills to just control their emotional train wreck. Mental health is an all-time high. We're not having families. The birth rate is very low. When females are holding to positions of power, they're very bad when it comes down to protection. They cannot uphold the law. Even judges do the same thing. That's the evidence right there. How is it even with that evidence, it's still not enough? I just don't get it. Okay.
Hi, I first want to say I'm a misogynist. And I'm all for men's rights because men are getting the short end of the stick all the time. But here's the thing. You keep talking about tools empowering women. No, my boyfriend can use an auger. I can't use an auger to save my life. Like, it will break my hands if I try to do it. There are hammer drills that my boyfriend is using that almost broke my wrist when I was trying to, I would have to hold it with both hands. So how are they empowering me? They're making me weaker.
My wife can deadlift my body weight, so I don't know what you're on
Oh
about.
my god, dude, this is crazy. His wife can lift, I guess, 1,000 pounds, man, as a deadlift with deadlift, guys. Oh, man, this dude, man, I mean, it's obvious. It's like he has. This is the importance of just doing a little bit of manual labor. You understand force, you understand strength, right? He's coming from a place that I cannot believe he's making these arguments. Unless you never build anything or pick up something, put it from point A from point B, you will not make this argument, guys.
Yeah, well, okay, but I would have to bulk up in order to use those
Well, go
tools.
to the gym then.
But even then, Craig,
Then I become a man.
You become a man because you go to the gym?
We're going to go to the next one.
are you aware of the discrepancy between the men's deadlift record and the women's?
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I lift
men
too.
are stronger.
Yeah, way stronger. Even with steroids, women aren't even in the same universe.
I have a question for Craig. Do you believe that feminism would be valuable in areas like rural Central America that have traditional roles that are established to aid in survival? And if so, then why?
Could you give me an example of...
Sure, the Darien Gap in Panama between Colombia, the Kuna tribe.
Okay, so...
You want to be more specific?
I am also a believer of reactiveness. If we see something's not working, we need to make a change. And if in those areas, having no feminism is working, then like trying to force it into that areas would be silly. But at the same time, I think if there's women there that wanted to have the rights of people in other countries, then they should be able to. But nothing should ever be forced upon it to change a status quo that is working.
So then feminism wouldn't necessarily be something that would be helpful in that area?
Yeah, in that area. If feminism going in would disrupt how a society functions and actually, really make it worse and destroy infrastructure and everything, then introducing it would be a bad idea. But if there was a natural evolution of women in those areas that then decided they wanted the rights and everything could come together. I agreed with Rachel that all the extremism, the forcing women into jobs just to meet woke criteria is a dumb thing to do. But if there's women that want to do things that are outside of the traditional roles, like in these areas, then they should have the rights and the abilities to choose to do that.
All right. Well, I'm just really glad then that here in the United States there have been no negative effects from feminism. So that's awesome.
Thank goodness for that, huh?
Next question.
All right, this is for Rachel Wilson, actually.
Finally a break.
How frustrating is it debating an opponent that makes wild assertions claiming sources of my studies, but never actually having them on hand to reference, like they just made it up?
Well, to be fair to Craig, there might be some study somewhere he can find that could say something that could be
Ralph, you're
somewhat...
saying ultimately this is a spiritual problem. God's rebellious children want to invert the natural order that he has prescribed in all religious scriptures and teaching. I agree with you. It's like inverting the polars, right? The north and the south. If you do that, in theory, the planet will blow. That's what we're trying to do. And also it's in the dynamics between men and women. What happens when the women start acting like a man? Usually the relationships end. It's the same thing. Guys, feminism is basically the biggest shit test ever. And men, we were at war without a defense strategy for years. For years, guys. How do we know? Look at our political process. Look at our political outcome. It doesn't make sense. Correct, because females have really pushed the boundaries way too much. And this is not only the United States. Look at Canada. Look at Australia. What happened in the couple days ago. All of that is just a result of feminism, guys. Who else would think that allowing people from the third world that has not the same ideologies, and very anti-feminist, by the way, will be a good idea? Only females will think like that. Only weak men will think like that. And this is not only in Australia, this is happening all over. That there's zero sense of community, of duty when it comes down to feminism.
Helpful to his argument, but it's always going to rely on framing. It's always going to rely on this idea that, like, well, we need feminism for women to have choice, when even the suffragists said that that wasn't true. And, well, women could potentially do this, but only if men are allowing it and subsidizing it and building it. You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe you could find a data point, but once we get rid of the false framing, it all falls apart.
Thank you.
My question's for Craig. Do you believe individuals have duties in a society? If so, what part of feminism promotes duties towards women for the betterment of society?
Great question.
Yes, I think we have duties.
Okay, mention
I think
them.
we have everyone has a duty to make the world better than they came into it. And
Promotes what part of feminism promotes duties towards women?
It allows women the ability to leave the world better than they came into it, and that is the duty that we have.
That's not a duty. So a duty would be like,
Yeah, you said
you
duty.
ought to do this. You know.
Yeah, my question is for Rachel. I'm really hungry, and I want you to make me some food. So, lunch is right out here, so.
Sorry, James. I have to go back to my real job now.
Can I get a sandwich?
No.
No.
Aw.
You can make it yourself.
Fine. I would have done it better anyway.
This one is for Craig.
How you doing?
Doing well. So this is a little bit anecdotal, but I'd like to present it as sort of a hypothetical and see if you can think of an exception, why this wouldn't generalize. I went to basic training at one of only 2 all-male basic training sites.
Thank you for your service.
When I was in the military. We matriculated from Fort Benning to Fort Sam Houston for advanced infantry training. Yeah. And when the group of us came from Fort Benning, we were thrown into the mix with a bunch of groups from co-ed basic training sites. What we recognized immediately was we weren't just better at our soldier skills than the soldiers from other basic training sites that were co-ed, but we had a different disposition toward our training than the rest of them did as well. So we ended up outperforming both the males and the females from those other basic training sites. What we ended up attributing this to was the difference in attitude that prevailed when women were thrown into the mix, and it made everybody weaker. And I'm suggesting to you that that should be generalizable to other fields that are dominated by men. Do you see a reason why that wouldn't be the case?
Okay, so basically you're saying having women in the mix screws things up.
Made us all worse.
Right. Now, I'm not going to disagree that there's circumstances where having men and women in the same place is going to cause problems. And, maybe in certain training situations, because men and women are different emotionally. Everyone knows that.
They got cards during training that were color-coded that alerted the instructors that they were having a bad day, and so they
good
should
Lord,
be treated
what?
more softly.
See, that kind of woke nonsense doesn't, I hate that, no.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let him answer.
Yeah, no, thank you.
We'll go to the next one.
Yeah, hi, my question's for Craig. So if I was to be
Craig.
charitable here, I would say that you see feminism as just an equalizer, as a way to give women and men both the same opportunities, same access to jobs, education, et cetera.
Yeah, with the caveat that I understand that men and women are not equal in every way, especially physically, yeah.
No,
So
he
on that
sound like he moved a little bit to the right, guys. He sound like understanding they're not equal. Like you can tell he moved a little bit to the right, guys.
What do you think is the most important job a woman could do, and can men also do that job?
What is the most important job that a woman can do that men can also do?
What is the most important job a woman could do in her life and do you think that job is something a man could also do?
No. Women doing the miracle of childbirth is the most important thing that exists, and men can't do that.
My last follow-up there, I was hoping you would say that, because in my personal opinion, I do believe that's not only the most important job a woman could do,
duty.
It's the most important job any human being can do.
Yeah.
And I also want to know, do you think feminism encourages that job?
I think it gives them the choice to do the job.
Ready for the...
So it's the most important job. It's the most important job, but it's only encouraged. Where is encouraged, guys? The numbers don't reflect that. The numbers don't reflect that. Not only in the United States, in the Western world. Think about this, guys. Latin Americans going through the same thing. The only countries that they're having, a lot of these ideas are not coming through strongly is Africa and South Asia for some reason.
We're ready for you, though.
All right. My question's for Craig. Speaking of evidence, you said that women wrote the code to send us to the moon. Do you have evidence of this code or its significance to the outcomes? Seems like NASA accidentally isn't able to validate the data point.
They have literal, like, pictures of her with the code that she wrote, and
picture doesn't mean anything. I can take a picture with the writings of Chopin about his first ballad. Doesn't mean I wrote it.
This code is available on nasa.org to view.
Got to go to the next question.
I don't understand.
Why,
Just these
bro?
last
Why?
Two questions, so we can't take any more after this.
Hey, Don, how you doing?
Hey, Craig, how are you? Good to
bad,
see you
man.
again. So I just really quickly, there was a math problem I'm struggling with, and I know you're a math guy. I want you to explain to me how 1% of the women can do 40% of the jobs. Because 1% of the women, you agreed, is about the number of women that are strong enough, physically durable enough to do the male jobs. 1% of women, and there are less women than men currently. And men, let's take 40% of the men that are doing the hard work. How is 1% of women going to do 40% of the jobs? I'm having a problem with this math.
Again, I would put it down to the fact that we live in a world where tools exist that allow women to do those jobs.
Strong men need those tools to do the job. That's 40%. 1%, 40%, the math doesn't math.
But there's tools that can make the women just as strong in doing these jobs. What job specifically are you talking about?
But the 40% of the men need those tools. So if 40% of the men need those tools to do the job, but you only have 1% of women that are strong enough to do the job that 40% of the men do, using those tools,
That's a good argument, guys.
Because you still
make
have
better tools.
90. Okay.
Who's going to make
more
them?
Men then?
Women can make tools.
Bro, this guy, women can make tools. Like, I don't know, guys. I really don't know.
Thanks, Don.
I don't.
One last question. Oh, I can't hold that. No problem. I was actually just gonna call you a faggot. I didn't have a question.
Call me a what?
We're going to wrap up.
No. That's not an. No. We're not doing this. We're not doing this Groyper stuff. No, we're not doing this, guys. No, that's not.
Do want to remind you folks, we do appreciate our guests, so we want to keep it civil. And
I actually didn't hear what you said. What did he call me?
It's not important. is that we do want to respect our guests. So
yeah, we don't. No.
We do
we
appreciate
So
our
he's just an
speakers.
asshole, then?
Is that they've traveled a long way, they've prepped, so we do appreciate them.
Yeah,
and they are
be
kind of
civil.
getting
I
in.
can bench press you, mate. Sit
They're
down.
getting in the lions. Our speakers are getting in the lion's den in some cases. So, for example, Craig knows.
James, can I have just 30 seconds?
Sure.
Yeah, right. So, a few weeks ago, my mum died, and this entire thing has been incredibly hard for me. Okay, but the Crucible crew have made me feel welcome, made me feel respected. Okay, and
that's good, man.
Yesterday,
Yeah.
I had a bit of a breakdown. Right, I had a breakdown. Who was the person that came and hugged me? Andrew fucking Wilson.
Andrew. I guess, bro. I guess because beside everything, we just want to make sure that everyone is okay, man. That guy coming in and saying the F word, man. That's not the way to do it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and James, thank you for bringing me here.
Yeah, he needs it, man.
Glad you're here, Craig.
Losing a loved one like that, and this will help him.
Give one last round of applause to both Rachel and Craig. Thank you very much.
Very good, man. Very good. Yeah, I understand. Andrew understand that, you know, losing a loved one is not easy, man. And again, understand this. He's just, you know, this is the lion's den, right? Like, expect a lot of these guys are conservatives. Like, they're probably siding with Andrew, and he's there just to do the counterpoint, of course, right? So coming there and saying the F word is not an argument. It's just, actually, you look worse. The guy saying that, actually, you look like one. Well, guys, that was this breakdown. Basically, my reaction on this content. Sometimes it's hard for me to watch it alone, so I just prefer a little bit of chat and stuff like that. And that way, I can keep myself, I would say, you know, entertained. Again, thank you so much for those that were part of the chat. Thank you so much. We're gonna keep doing these. I feel and I think this is my duty, even though there's only 5 people watching my channel. I think this is my duty. I'm so chatterban, guys. You guys still have no idea. I'm very chatterban. I used to do Kevin Samuels content, and somehow that alone like just messed me up big time, man. It messed up the algorithm, the whatever. It just, I don't know what happened. But we're gonna do another live on Friday. We're gonna lock into that one. We're gonna do another Andrew Wilson, if we can find another one of Andrew Wilson's the last debates. We can break that down. There's a lot of good content there. In the meantime, guys, I'll see you next one. I'm out.